In today's video, who is really buying properties in Toronto and the GTA? We're gonna get to that and much more in this video. Let's get to it. Hello everyone, this is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate and Remax Realtron Realty Inc. As always, you can find my contact information in the description box with regards to my Gmail, my Instagram, and my office. Feel free to get in touch with me with any questions you may have on any topics covered in this video or any other video, or if you have any general inquiries with regards to the Toronto/GTA real estate market. Lastly, feel free to subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Your support in that regard is greatly appreciated, but as I always say, you're not obliged to do so whatsoever. Anyways, enough of that. Let's get to the point of today's video, which is a interesting study and report that came out as conducted by Teraview, which states that up to 25% of buyers within the city of Toronto and overall a large portion of buyers all over the GTA, but specifically 25% in the city of Toronto, are purchasers who own another property. This report classifies the four major buyer types, and the methodology is basically the change in title. Now, if you don't know what the title is basically the legal instrument that gives you ownership of a property. The way you can prove, for instance, that you own said property, that you didn't just walk into a vacant house where the owner passed away in another city and you're just there and now it's yours. No. And also describes your rights to the real estate, to the land and the structure there upon it. So using title transfers and the context behind how titles get transferred, which is through purchase and sale, but the further context, they have classified the major buyer types. One are the movers, individuals who buy and sell the principal residences in a high frequency. The other are multi-property owners, which is exactly what it sounds like, individuals who own multiple properties. I'm pretty sure this excludes individuals who own properties under the name of a corporation, where obviously it's just a corporation for the purposes of ownership, right? It's somewhat of a shell corporation, to be fair. So it doesn't include those owners, but individuals who nonetheless own multiple properties, at least more than one. So those are the multi-property owners. For the sake of simplicity, we can assume these are mostly investors, right? Yes, sure. Are there individuals who are quite wealthy who purchase a second property? Maybe they live in Richmond Hill, but they purchase a downtown condo just for the weekend getaway with their wife. And it's not necessarily investment condominium. It's vacant for the most part, and they occasionally go once again for the weekend getaway. I've worked with these clients before. Sure, that is a possibility, and they're not quite investors, but that's the exception and not the rule. Most of these multi-property owners are most likely investors. Then you have the first-time home buyers, which is what it exactly sounds like, the first-time home buyers, people who are purchasing a property under their name is going to go on the title for the very first time. Then you have the segment of life events. Now, what life events refers to is situations where, for instance, a individual passes away and in the will, they put the property in the name of someone else. Or the individual doesn't necessarily have to pass away or be old whatsoever. They want to pass on the property, generationally speaking, to a family member. Instead of selling it to them, they just do transfer of ownership. This is what life events or life event buyers refers to. And then lastly, of the five major classifications, you have other. Other basically refers to anything else. This can be, for instance, buyers outside of Ontario. So not necessarily even foreign buyers, but foreign to Ontario. So domestic Canadian buyers who are not in Ontario. And of course, as well, foreign buyers, or people who have re-entered from the lease market. So they previously owned, they sold, they leased, now they are re-entering the market. That, according to Teraview, also is categorized as other. So now that we have the five major buyer types, let's see what percentage of the total buyers these five categories make up, right? Starting with, for instance, the city of Toronto. In the city of Toronto, we see buyers who own multiple properties make up almost 25% of buyers. The highest segment of buyers are first-time home buyers, who make up 27% of all buyers. Then you have movers, life event buyers, and other buyers to a lesser degree. Life event buyers make up 16% of the total buyers. Others, once again, buyers who are either re-entering the purchase and sale market, or for instance, buyers who are international or outside of Ontario, they make up 20. And then the movers who jump from principal residence to principal residence made up about 10%. Right now, all these percentages I'm giving, they're across 10 years. So we're taking into account, or rather Teraview took into account from 2010 to August of 2021. So it's not as if we're looking at just 2021, which we will, by the way, in a graph later as represented by Teraview. But what's interesting here is off the bat, of course, the portion of multi-property owners is very large. And of course, this is what we think of as investors. And this portion is mostly, in my opinion, have to be attributed to condominiums, right? Not to say, of course, there's a lot of multi-property owners who own semis and townhomes and other detached properties, and they rent them out. Of course, that exists. But in the investor base, as part of the freehold market, is far less than the investor base in the condominium market, right? And Toronto is the most condo rich of all regions discussed in this report, right? So it's a safe assumption that of this 24% of investors / individuals who own multiple properties, a lot of them are holding on to condominiums, a large portion of them, right? Something like, for instance, downtown Toronto, anywhere from 25 to 30% of condominium owners in downtown Toronto own such for speculative purposes. And from just a pure demographics perspective, the first-time home buyers is going to always be quite high, right? Most people would assume, well, home ownership is becoming more and more difficult. As a result, this percentage of buyers will dip. Well, although that may be true in of itself, that home ownership is becoming more and more difficult, as long as immigration rates and birth rates keep going up or stay even, you're going to have more and more people overall. And the fact that you're going to have more and more people, and naturally, when you have more and more people, you have a larger population that is going to potentially at some point buy for the first time. This same kind of logic does not apply, for instance, with multi-property owners, right? Just because you have more and more people doesn't necessarily mean now more and more people are going to buy their second property or third property. But as long as the population grows, whether once again through immigration or in birth rates, naturally speaking, you're going to have more people who are at some point going to buy. Another thing that's quite interesting is the 16.8%, almost 70% of buyers who are buyers in terms of life events. Once again, that's transfer of ownership. Now this could be due to, as the report itself says as well, this could be due to more generational passing of ownership of property, right? Because when we put these percentages on a graph, a line graph, and we line up all these 5 buyer types on a line graph, as done by the report here and on the screen, we see there has been an uptick of life event owners. Now, not quite towards the latter years of the graph, right? Not from 2020 to 2021, but from 2016 or 2014 and there onwards, there was a decent uptick. And the report itself, and I agree with this, surmises more and more people are passing on generational assets such as real estate to their younger family members through just mere transfer of ownership, right? And not selling it. So that is a very good assumption in my opinion. And once again, the uptick, not so much in recent years, but in the middle of the decade, there was an uptick. And I think that's a good explanation as to possibly why uptick occurred. And I think that's a pretty good explanation as to why that uptick has occurred. On the other hand, as you can see, the other ownership, the green line here as represented by the green, is on a decline, a pretty sharp decline actually. In successive years, it's been getting less and less. Part of the reason and explanation could be due to the foreign buyers tax that was introduced. Other reasons could be that more and more foreign buyers are not purchasing under their personal names any longer. They're purchasing under shell corporations. Thus, as a result, this is not quite accurate. But it's very interesting to see the trend of other, which once again is not totally compromised of foreign buyers. Of course, it also accounts for buyers who were once in the purchase and sale market owning real estate and then went to the release market and came back, right? Those buyers are also accounted for under the category of other. So it's not exclusively foreign buyers, but it's interesting to see other dip. And then obviously touching on those other buyers as well that I just explained that are also categorized under other, which are people who exited the purchase and sale market, went into the lease market, are now coming back. As we can see, this other is declining sharply. And one of the possible conclusions we can derive from this is that once you exit the purchase and sale market and go into the lease market, it's becoming harder and harder to get back to the purchase and sale market. Meaning once you start renting after owning, for whatever reason, it's harder than ever to start owning again. What's also interesting is that the two strongest, largest, and healthiest portions of the buyers, multi-property owners and first-time home buyers, with first-time home buyers from 2020 to 2021, we see a dip. Now, this is, I'll be quite honest with you, completely the opposite of my experience, because more than ever in 2020, I worked with first-time home buyers. Once again, more than ever. Obviously, I know my experience is very anecdotal and it's not quantitative in nature. It's just my experience. The numbers here show clearly a dip within the last year of first-time home buyers. And in contrast, a sharp increase of multi-property owners, right? And to me, this is not really coincidental. Not to say it's a zero-sum game, not to say for every first-time home buyer that is removed from the market, there's a new multi-property owner that enters into the market. It's not that clean, but I think overall there exists that relationship. Multi-property owners make the purchasing of real estate far more competitive and far more difficult, raising prices. And the first-time home buyers who cannot stick with the competition, they kind of exit the market, and multi-property owners kind of increase within the market, right? They make up a larger portion of buyers. And here at the end is the chart of all the areas they went through to determine the percentage and the makeup of the buyers according to these 5 categories they've established. Now, what's very interesting, and they've actually highlighted this, is Muskoka, for instance. Not a lot of first-time home buyers, a lot of multi-property owners. Here, it's one of the areas where it's safe to assume that a lot of the multi-property owners are not pure investors, right? Because Muskoka is what? Cottage country. And yes, at the end of the day, once again, a cottage is real estate and it's an investment. You can think of anything as an investment, but these are not people who are buying a second property to rent it out to get some cash flow from it, right? So there, it makes perfect sense why multi-property owners make up such a large portion of the buyers, and one of the only areas where multi-property owners are most likely not all investors. If not 50% of them are probably not investors. And then you have other areas like Peel, where we see here the largest share of where first-time home buyers are, which is near 28.5%. Let's just say 28%. And of course, this is no longer the case, but in the early parts of the decade, a lot of affordable options were in Peel. Still, there are a lot of affordable options in Peel, but much less so towards 2021, 2020, 2019 than was the case in 2012 or 2013. And then you see another area that is very abundant in first-time home buyers that I think if we were to look at this in a couple of years, I think we will see even a larger share, which is Durham. And Durham, a lot of first-time home buyers took their business to Durham, right? Within the last year and a half, I worked with a lot of first-time home buyers who went east to Durham. Anyways, I found this report very interesting, and let me know what you think of the report. Anyways, that's Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate and Remax Realtron Realty Inc. As always, thank you very much for watching. Let me know if you have any further questions. You can find my contact information in the description box. And thank you very much for watching. Stay safe and stay tuned. Thank you.